The coach of the Cougars is on the air. This is BYU football with head coach Bronco Mendenhall. Now back to Bronco and KSL's voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
BYU football with head coach Bronco Mendenhall, sponsored by the Ken Garff University Parkway dealers, Ken Garff Nissan, Honda, and Porsche Audi Volkswagen. Have you folks enjoyed the first show here at LaVell Edwards Stadium? We're here at the President's Loge at LaVell Edwards Stadium. And again, the folks here requested tickets by going to byu.ksl.com, clicking on our show page link, and they got themselves in just like that. And you can do that too. Again, it'll probably be mid-October the next time we have an opening, but to get in now or before you know it, the season will be gone. Coming up in just a matter of seconds, BYU Q&A, our weekly Q&A segment. We'll try and get some questions in from you folks and our emails, and then we'll end up with the Ken Garff Keys to the Game. And we'll look ahead to BYU in Washington. I want to start this last segment by again reading one of our letters we got from a fan that is with us tonight, Michael Hales. Michael, you're right here, right? Good to see you, Michael. Bear with me, but I think it's a great story. And here's how Michael's letter read, and this is what he sent to us at byu.ksl.com. Many mock the idea that BYU football is a missionary tool. He says, I disagree. I wasn't a huge football fan as a freshman at BYU. Funny that I became a super fan while serving a mission in Belize. He says it was November 17th, 2001. My companion and I had an appointment with a group of Nigerian immigrants there in Belize City. To get to their house, we walked down a narrow alley with various houses on either side. I stopped when I heard a TV announcer say what sounded like Brandon Doman. I told myself that I was hearing things and no one in Belize would be watching American football, so I walked on. When we found out that our investigators weren't home, we headed back to the street. This time I heard clearly, "Touchdown, Luke Staley!" I figured out which house the sound was coming from and sprinted to the front door. We looked in and found a man asleep in front of his TV. He jerked awake when I knocked. We quickly told him who we were, and we explained that we couldn't believe he was watching our college's football game on TV. He told us, and he explained that he doesn't watch football, but he'd fallen asleep watching boxing. No matter, he explained, he was happy to have company. We were welcomed in to watch the game with him. I had to explain that as missionaries, we couldn't watch TV, but would be happy to turn the volume down a bit so we could share a short message with him. As we spoke, neither of us could resist the urge to turn and watch the score. BYU was down, but seemed to be making it a game. It was getting late, and Belize City is dangerous, so we had to go. Dangerous after 9 p.m. But BYU had the ball and was marching down the field. Our new friend, Brother Pollard, smiled and said that while he didn't understand football, he'd stay up to watch, and we could stop by the next day to hear the score. We were back early the next morning. Brother Pollard had a huge smile on his face and excitedly explained that some Stanley guy, it was actually Luke Staley, ran down the field as fast as Marion Jones to win the game. He asked about BYU, which led to more questions about our church. He took the discussions with his wife and neighbor who decided to get baptized a month later. That's an interesting story. And he says and Michael Hales here with us says he's remained a strong BYU fan since that day. And he said he would love to come to the show, and he appreciates the work that the Bronco's done, and he'd like to thank him for his leadership. So, Michael, thank you for the story. And Bronco, thank you for the leadership. And let's get to a couple of questions. Let's go first to an email. And again, you can also bring us the email questions at byu.ksl.com. This is from Jerry. To Coach, I know you have a few sons you're raising. I have 4 boys of my own. Can you comment on the challenge of being a father during the football season? What do you do to make sure that you don't neglect your sons when you're also looking after 105 other sons?
Well, it's difficult, and it's 123 now that school started in terms of sons, those that I consider my sons on the team, plus those former players that I've already had a chance to coach. So we have kind of a unique ritual at our house. I get up early in the morning to train, and then I get to work, but my alarm goes off on my cell phone, and I call home at 7:30 every morning. The kids, we kind of have roll call, so I say, is Cutter there? And he'll say, yeah, I'm here, and then Breaker and Raider and Holly. And we actually talk about their day on speakerphone in the mornings, even though I'm just 20 miles away or 25 miles away. And then we usually have our family prayer over the telephone, over the speakerphone. And that's how the day starts. When the day finishes, I ran right from practice, and that's why I barely got here in time. I caught 15 minutes of my son's soccer game. And then I'll be able to be home in time to, we kind of have a ritual of telling bedtime stories, and I usually can help a little bit with homework. And and that's really all I can do. And so every chance I get to communicate, to be with them, to show that I care, we take that opportunity. One of the reasons why our work schedule is what it is, and I'm fortunate enough where I have control over that, is that is I believe in balance. And so our coaches leave right after practice every night. That's at 6:30. We're probably the only school in the country that does that, and we don't work at all on Sunday. But I'm fortunate to make that choice. So as a leader, it would be very hypocritical if I believed that balance was important and family was took precedent over football, and yet then I didn't provide a work structure that allowed others to take advantage of that. So I do the best I can, still learning how to do that, but when I am with them, I leave my cell phone in the truck when I go home at night, so I'm not reachable that way. So I'm completely devoted to my family and kids when I'm there, and those are just some of the things I'm doing to try to make an impact while they're still in the formative stages of their life.
All right. Let's take an audience question. Samantha, who are we with there? Go ahead, sir.
Andrew Allman here, Coach. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you. Thank you.
It's cool that you're here. Thanks.
Hey, great to be here. Hey, I've been reading a book about leadership by a former great UCLA coach, John Wooden.
Ooh.
And in reading his book, I see a lot of similarities between your coaching style and John Wooden's coaching style. I'm wondering, in your 5 years, say, as a head coach, if you could define maybe the single greatest moment of being a head football coach, and as a follow-up to that, do you have any coaching mentors that maybe you've tried to emulate or follow in your career?
You're perceptive in that John Wooden is someone that I didn't know personally, but I've read every book that he's written, including a great children's book called Inch and Miles. So if you haven't read that, or those that have kids, if you haven't read that book, it's great. It's a great one for your kids. In terms of Coach Wooden, I love the idea of your personal best. I love the idea that he did very little work in scouting his opponent. All he was concerned about, or what he was mostly concerned about, is the performance of his team and what they could control and what they could do. Many of us in our daily lives spend so much time worrying about what might happen, or considering what if this or what if that, and he seemed to have a great idea of focusing on the process, being devoted completely to that, giving your personal best, and then that would indeed take care of the result. And so I've tried to emulate as much of that as possible, having read and studied as much of that as I can. I love to read. In terms of mentorships, I've learned from really every coach that I've had, positively and negatively. Much of what's impacted me are things not to do, how I didn't like to be treated. And so I've tried to do a better job of not putting the young men that I'm coaching in those positions, not treat them the way I was treated in some cases. And I'm not perfect and certainly continuing to learn, but I love the idea of rather than coaching, inspiring. That word seems to come and resonate a lot more with me, and I think coaching is nothing but teaching, and teaching is service. Teaching is trying to help someone else reach their potential, and that really is the motive of what I have to do this job, helping these young men reach their potential. Yeah, it's visible what they do out here on the field, but really, if they can reach their potential in all areas of their life, now you're talking about communities benefiting and prospering from the type of influence they have, and that's a meaningful way to do the job. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Coach. Coach, stay with us. In 60 seconds, we'll get Broncos keys to the game. Ken Garff keys to the game for BYU in Washington back after this.